The Little Mermaid is not a love story. It is a story about erasure. Beneath the shimmering sea and the promise of romance lies a tale about silencing oneself to be chosen, about reshaping the body to fit desire, and about the quiet violence of giving everything in exchange for the hope of being loved. Long before it was softened into a musical fantasy, The Little Mermaid was a warning, not about following dreams, but about what dreams demand in return. This is not a fairy tale about becoming human. It is a story about learning how to disappear. Curiosity as transgression. The Little Mermaid's first crime is curiosity. She is born into a rigid hierarchy beneath the sea, a world ruled by her father and structured by obedience. Each mermaid is allowed to rise to the surface only when permitted, and only to observe, never to participate. The human world is forbidden, not because it is evil, but because it represents autonomy, danger, and choice. When the Little Mermaid longs for the surface, she is not longing for love. She is longing for selfhood. She wants to know who she might be beyond the role assigned to her. Curiosity in this story is treated as rebellion. The prince as projection, not partner. When the Little Mermaid first sees the prince, he is unconscious, helpless, silent, unaware of her presence. She saves his life, then leaves him behind without being seen. This is crucial. The prince never knows her. He becomes a symbol, not a person. He represents access to another world, another life, another identity. The Little Mermaid does not fall in love with him. She falls in love with what he represents. The story does not romanticize connection. It romanticizes distance. The witch and the price of desire. To reach the human world, the Little Mermaid turns to the sea witch, a figure often portrayed as evil, but who is, in truth, brutally honest. The witch does not deceive her. She explains the cost clearly. The Little Mermaid will lose her voice. Every step she takes will feel like walking on knives, and if the prince does not love her, she will die. This is not trickery. This is consent under desperation. The witch offers no comfort, no reassurance. She simply reflects the world as it is. Transformation requires pain, and desire demands sacrifice. The Little Mermaid agrees. Silence as virtue. When the Little Mermaid becomes human, her voice is taken, not as punishment, but as requirement. She is made desirable through silence. She is beautiful, graceful, and mute. She cannot explain who she is. She cannot tell her story. She cannot claim the act that saved the prince's life, and this silence is praised. The prince adores her gentleness, her sweetness, her quiet presence. He enjoys her company, but he does not love her. He searches instead for the girl who spoke to him, the one whose voice he remembers but cannot place. The Little Mermaid is close enough to touch him, but never close enough to be chosen. Love as self-erasure. Every step the Little Mermaid takes causes her pain, yet she does not cry out. She dances, she smiles, she endures. Her suffering must remain invisible to be acceptable. This is the story's most brutal truth. Love for women is framed as silent endurance. The Little Mermaid is not rewarded for honesty or courage. She is admired for how much pain she can withstand without complaint. The illusion of choice. When the prince marries another woman, believing she is the one who saved him, the Little Mermaid is condemned. The rules are clear. She will dissolve into sea foam by morning. Her sisters offer her one escape. She may kill the prince and return to the sea. For the first time, she is given a choice that involves agency, and it is framed as monstrous. Survival requires violence. Love requires self-destruction. She chooses death, not because she must, but because she has been taught that harming the one she loves would make her unworthy of existence. Why the story endures. The Little Mermaid endures because it speaks to a painful reality, the belief that love requires self-sacrifice so complete that nothing of the self remains. It reflects the fear that speaking, claiming space, or prioritizing survival makes one unlovable. The story whispers a dangerous lesson. If you are quiet enough, beautiful enough, and willing to suffer enough, you might be chosen. And if you are not, you must disappear gracefully. And now, the real story of the Little Mermaid. Far beneath the surface of the sea lived a sea king with his 6 daughters. The youngest was the most curious and the most quiet. While her sisters were content with the world beneath the waves, she longed to know what lay beyond it. When she reached her 15th year, she was permitted to rise to the surface. There she witnessed a storm and a shipwreck. Among the wreckage, she found a young prince and saved him from drowning. She carried him to shore and watched, from hiding as others found him. He never saw her. From that moment, she thought of him constantly. She learned that humans possessed immortal souls, something mermaids did not. When mermaids died, they dissolved into sea foam and vanished forever. The thought terrified her. She went to the sea witch and begged for a way to become human. The witch agreed, at a price. The Little Mermaid would give up her voice. Each step she took would feel like knives piercing her feet. And if the prince married another, she would die. The Little Mermaid agreed without hesitation. She was given human legs and left voiceless on the shore. The prince found her and took her into his home. He treated her kindly and dressed her in fine clothes, but he did not love her. He loved the idea of the girl who had saved him. The one he believed lived in another land. Though the Little Mermaid danced for him, though she suffered silently, he never recognized her. Eventually, the prince married another woman. On the morning after the wedding, the Little Mermaid's sisters rose from the sea and gave her a knife. If she killed the prince, she could return to the sea. She stood beside him as he slept, and then she turned away. At sunrise, she threw herself into the sea and dissolved into foam. But instead of vanishing, she became a spirit of the air, condemned to centuries of good deeds to earn the soul she had been denied. She did not win love. She did not win life. She won only the right to suffer longer, and the world called it a lesson.